you got to just open up the door to the community. And to me, it's about our students knowing the opportunities that are right here in our own backyard. It's amazing that a lot of our students, go past these businesses every single day. They drive by. Some of them are tucked away in industrial parks. They don't necessarily see them.
Right.
We have organizations that this is their future. And why are they heading to college? Hopefully it's to come back and work in our community. But if they don't know what opportunities are right here and available in our community, again, we're missing the boat. There's a flaw in the system.
Hello and welcome to The Future is Clear, Teach Like It's 2045 webcast series. My name is Scott Carr from CESA 2. Today's topic area is how businesses, community, and public education can partner together to pave the education to employment path through profession-based learning. Joining us today is Nate Clayberg from the CAPS Network, Dave Thomas and Shane Leadholm from Middleton-Cross Plains School District. Hello, fellas. How's it going?
Doing good. Thanks for having us, Scott.
You betcha. Let me give you just a little bit of information about each. So Shane has been in education for over 9 years and has taught business, marketing, information technology classes at Middleton-Cross Plains High School. He also serves as the CAPS program coordinator, along with being the investment club advisor. Welcome, Shane.
Hey, Scott. Good to see you all. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you betcha. Sorry to interrupt you there. Sorry. Dave has been in education for 27 years and currently the Career and Technical Education Coordinator at Middleton-Cross Plains School District. He also currently serves on the Board of Directors with the Cross Plains Chamber of Commerce. And he was elected this year as president of the Wisconsin Future Businesses Leaders of America Foundation. Glad to have you along, Dave.
Looking forward to a great time and connecting with your followers.
Yeah, appreciate being here. We also got Nate. Nate Clayberg is Business and Industry Director for the CAPS Network. He has a very diverse background, which includes small business, post-secondary, healthcare, economic development, entrepreneurship, media, and also education. Nate's current position at the CAPS Network, he catalyzes national and global interest in supporting students and educators to have a mutually beneficial impact for each other. Welcome, Nate.
Make it sound like I can't hold a job there, Scott. So, I just based on experience. I'm looking forward to investment tips from Shane as we move through this.
Yeah, I can
I'm not
imagine.
a financial advisor. I can't give any specific advice.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys coming along for the ride. We've been holding our webcast series. We're into about 5 or so episodes. I think we've got a great lineup with you guys. I had a chance this summer to meet all of you actually, and met Nate a while back after catching his webcast or his podcast on Sylvester Chisholm's CTE podcast series. And met with Dave and Shane this summer, talked a little bit about how you guys are connected to the CAPS Network. I know you guys are going into your second year and doing some amazing work with it. So it's going to be great to hear a little bit about that work and all things CAPS Network. So this is a recorded webcast. We'll share it out to others. We do have some live people along for the ride. So how is the school year going for you guys, Shane, Dave?
Shane, why don't you go ahead and kick it off, and then I'll kind of share a little bit more on the CT side of life.
Sure. Sounds good. So things are going well. We're about a month into the school year here at Middleton High School. We have a lot of unique, exciting programs happening. So my role as the CAPS coordinator, as a CAPS instructor, as well as a business education teacher. So wearing a few different hats this year. I feel like for the sake of this conversation, excuse me, bell is still ringing here.
That's all right.
For the sake of this conversation, CAPS is a great topic to discuss, and things are going great so far. So as you mentioned, Scott, this is year 2 of our program, expanding. We have 3 strands and pathways right now, 30 students in our program, getting them involved in community partnerships, real world projects, visiting different sites and hearing from different guest speakers. So we just wrapped up our boot camp phase and we're about to jump into our projects. So yeah, really excited to get into that, and things are going well.
Super cool. Dave, how about you? How's the year going?
Yeah, from a career and technical education, program perspective, I think it's, awesome to see our CAPS program continue to serve a specific niche in our offerings. And what I mean by that is, I'm in charge and specifically with the youth apprenticeship program, work very closely around some of those work-based learning experiences. We continue to thrive. Our school did have a referendum a few years ago where we renovated our school. And so we updated a lot of our career and technical education programs. So it's neat to see our career and technical education program to be front and center. We're thriving from the standpoint of enrollment in our tech ed programs and the business programs, as well as our family and consumer science and healthcare areas. So what the CAPS experience for us has really done is provided another access point for students to get some of that experiential learning, but also really has opened up a lot of new conversations and really expanded some of the work that we're doing even within our career and technical education programs. It's pushing some conversations for us with our staff around getting out of the box and getting connected to our community and our partners.
Super cool. Yeah, as it should, right? Nate, how about yourself? Tell us a little bit, how does a year start out for CAPS and Nate Clayberg around some of this stuff?
I think, it does ramp up when the school year is coming, and that's kind of the time where we don't get quite engaged with our affiliates because they need that on ramp to get going. But looking at through the summer, I would think our year kind of starts after our summer huddle conference that we have at the end of June, and we get a little break there at the end of June into July, and then it's okay. Let's start ramping up. Let's help get our affiliates where they need to be. Questions that need to be asked as they're coming back for their professional development days, things like that. But we're a lean staff of about 5.5 or 6 right now with our different roles and all the things we have going on the network. But there's always stuff to do to support our affiliates, and ultimately the people we serve are those students.
Yeah, you're right. Always something to do is for sure right. The structure and what we're going to do here as we talk through this, we're going to talk a little bit about the why, what, and how. But so with that, though, I'd like to know a little bit about your journey. How did you get where you're at, each of you, and why the interest into this area? Go ahead, Shane. Shane,
gonna go? Well,
sure.
Yeah, I can jump in.
Yeah, go for it. Nate, you go for it. We'll maybe circle back in reverse order.
Rock, paper, scissors. Here we go.
There you go.
So yeah, I guess, I'm not from the education world. My background originally, was broadcasting. That's the job I thought I was going to get into when I was sitting in high school, and did evolve through that from a community college down through Iowa State with that, journalism degree that I didn't know I was supposed to have and probably should have went a different path, hindsight, right? And then ended up in the jobs that you have to have because the way life, what things throw at you, and getting into sales and then evolving into college athletics because I thought that's where I wanted to be to make me happy, and got burned out on that and ended up in this world of workforce and economic development, a world I had no idea that was out there, but it came down to some skill sets. So, as I was brought into the Cedar Falls, Iowa CAPS program about 8 years ago to help make business connections, I didn't know what this world was. But I also was very aware that education and business had an interest in talking to each other, but they didn't necessarily know how to talk to each other. And that's a niche that I've come to enjoy and found purpose in when you connect all those circles of, I love doing it. I'm good at it. I feel like, the world needs it, obviously, and I'm lucky enough to get paid for it. So, if you can fit all those 4 circles, that ikigai, Scott, this is rare with purpose. And I think Dave and Shane, as they've got into this world, I think it's strengthening the power of them as educators and what they're doing in their communities as well.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. Shane, go ahead.
All right. So as you mentioned, Scott, this is year 9 teaching for me. When I was in high school, I was fortunate enough to have some wonderful educators, both of which inspired me to be be a teacher and work with students. In particular, my business ed teachers were phenomenal. So at a young age, I had an interest in education. Went to college, studied business education, also played basketball at Edgewood College here in Madison. Had a great experience there, and first year teaching back at my alma mater in Cambridge. Really enjoyed it. Had a lot of different good experiences, coaching golf, teaching, and then I made the shift over to Middleton. This is year 8 here, and I've taught a wide variety of business ed courses. But as I've gone through these, first decade of teaching, I've had this itch to do a little bit more and get a little bit more involved with the community. Naturally in CTE and business ed, I think it fits really nicely. And our school has done a lot of research and visiting other CAPS schools. So we adapted the CAPS model a couple of years ago. Last year, I taught our pilot course of 15 students where we started getting dirty and building these partnerships and building the curriculum, which was really exciting. It was challenging, but it was really fun. And this year, we are officially launching our program as MHS CAPS. We have 3 strands. We have 4 different teachers. So there is a molecular biology research and design course. There's a business solutions course. And then I'm teaching our career exploration course and helping coordinate our program. So it's a fall semester, and things are going well. So still managing multiple different roles, wearing different hats, still coaching golf, still teaching business ed. But, again, this unique opportunity to get students involved with the community, getting them, learning professional skills while still doing real world projects has been extremely rewarding. And we're really excited to see where this thing can keep going.
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, obviously it helps with building that real world connection, helps build that relevance for our students. When I came in and we met this summer, I really enjoyed your enthusiasm around it. And not only that, Shane, probably obviously out of the 4 of us, you are the rookie, if you would, 9 years in. But I really enjoyed your commitment and your enthusiasm to want to learn more and apply some of the information I brought in. So I'm looking forward to working with you alongside you down the road if we can. So how about you, Dave?
Yeah, I'll kind of defer back a little bit to teaching for 16 years in the classroom. For me, a big part of it, I'll be honest, was a moving piece of actually working with a program called Junior Achievement. That brought some of our community partners into the classroom. And that was really for me as a young teacher trying to figure out like these relationships. And as Nate said, sometimes the businesses call us and we don't know quite how to respond. Junior Achievement made that, functional for me. That kind of opened up that, thought process, say, what more can I do? And so that really started to push conversations, whether it be some of the digital technology courses that I had to other experiences, and led me as an educator to say, what, I don't need to be the center of the instruction at all times. And as much as we can bring in those community partners, those are lasting relationships that our students, some of my students were entrepreneurs that went on to still have those mentors way beyond our time in the classroom. And so to me, that was really kind of that revelation moment. I had an opportunity to work at the Department of Public Instruction from 2012 until 2021 as the business and IT ed consultant. A big part of that journey also was working with school districts. But I'll kind of reflect upon being a student organization leader and state advisor for Future Business Leaders of America. Our student organizations in career and tech ed are all about bringing our business partners with our students and working and collaborating outside of the classroom setting. I really challenged, our organization to say, where are our business partners? How come we're not more involved in some of those career and technical student organization experiences? And still continue to have those conversations today with our teams here at Middleton High School and saying we need to make sure that they're a vital part of that student organization experience. Pushing that conversation is kind of where things have led for me in the career and tech ed role now that I'm at Middleton High School since 2021. Had a chance to do some visits over the years. And I'll be honest, it was, wasn't really easy going. We did a nice site visit over to Elmbrook to the launch program with Bob Hall and the staff there. They have an amazing program. They are part of the CAPS network as well. We took that visit and with staff, and we kind of walked out the door and said, geez, we just don't know. I actually connected with Peg Shoemaker, head principal, and then we brought students over along with our executive director of the Chamber of Commerce And as we returned back with a couple of staff members as well, we said, we need to do this. We need to figure this out. Our students were excited about what they saw. Our staff was excited about what we saw. And honestly, when I worked at the state, a lot of our work around regional career pathways is about how do we remove those barriers? How do we make sure that we eliminate some of those challenges? And in this case, whether it's a school side, community side, post-secondary partners, whatever it is, let's figure it out and let's find our way. And so really it's been kind of all hands on deck from our superintendent, Dana Minogue, to our head principal. It's really been a very comprehensive approach from a leadership perspective to say, let's make sure we put our efforts into this and we're dedicated to it from top to bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you and I met last year, and I really admired your drive and passion behind this work. So I knew it was somebody I needed to reconnect with and obviously collaborate with and do some work together. So I'm excited to have that partnership, down the road as we move forward with this work in our region, CESA 2 region, but also in the state. I think you're going to have great impact on it, Dave. So appreciate your efforts. I would definitely identify the work that you guys are doing is somewhat non-traditional in a way. It really stretches work-based learning. It has great impact on students, right? With a lot of students that get involved. So it brings that relevance to our educational system. I'm interested. I want to start with you, Dave. Tell us why the need for change in our educational system.
As I look at work-based learning, I'm going to challenge our thoughts. And we know in Wisconsin, our youth apprenticeship program, we're seeing the numbers grow. You see continuing expansion of the youth apprenticeship program, and that's fantastic. But I will say for a long time, the youth apprenticeship program, while we saw numbers growing, we we're actually kind of harvesting, honestly, from our local skills co-op programs. And really the net gain was relatively little to none. And so we weren't really moving the needle, even though we saw some growth in youth apprenticeship, we weren't really moving the needle on work-based learning. And in the nature of, all the different experiences that students can have, we realize that not all of our students are ready to take that leap into a full year commitment or a 2-year commitment in a youth apprenticeship experience. We know that some of our students are looking honestly for experience in high school. They don't really care whether it's paid or not at this point. To me, I kind of look at this journey as, again, how can we connect with our mentors, but I'll call it kind of micro internships. It's not necessarily a term that's formally adopted by the CAPS network, but when I see that term and you look it up, micro internships, it's becoming much more of a trend, not just with youth, but also with college students and adult learners. To saying, how can we, provide those shorter segments? Because again, typically in an internship situation, you're looking for that longer term commitment. In this case, we can certainly do a longer term project, but in many cases, we've been able to provide that opportunity for students to connect with, in Shane's experience last year, what do you have, Shane, about 7 different organizations that your students had a chance to work with last year. To me, that's an amazing journey for a student.
Right.
To develop their LinkedIn profile to say, I worked on these projects with these 7 companies over the course of what was essentially a semester. I don't think we can do that in any other CTE program area right now that, I can reflect upon.
Yeah, you say it well. So I'm hearing you say shorter, more experiences for our students in our educational system. Do you see any of that potentially when we look at systems change here? Do you see any of that coming out of our gen ed classrooms? Do you see where that connection could maybe happen? Are you guys doing anything like that?
Well, I'm going to redirect. I'll come back to your inquiry there a little bit.
Sure.
I also want to emphasize, how we're serving our students is an important part of this. I think we can look at our programs and say, where are those underrepresented student populations? To me, that is a big part of connecting back to our gen ed programs and saying, when we have those underrepresented student populations, I think the CAPS network does an amazing job of lifting up that experience for them to get them connected with some of their career opportunities. For some of the students that might have transportation barriers, we've overcome those. For students that might have that professional network or a parent that can step forward and say, I know somebody that can get you connected. Again, that's where I think the CAPS network has come through. Some of our students have limitations and barriers to employment. Yeah. They aren't qualified to necessarily work and receive pay. So again, I think that's where the CAPS network has allowed us to lift up that work. Again, connecting back to our, core academic areas. Shane, I'm gonna let you dive a little bit deeper in that because I know you're working
Yeah.
with our English teachers who are actually part of the CAPS experience this year.
Yeah, go ahead, Shane. Give us a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, similar to Dave, I think this type of work is like shifting my whole practice on the way I teach and why it's important. The core of it is supporting students in their professional skills. So our entire program, all of our different classes, we took the durable skills framework and we based a lot of our curriculum and our assessments and our reflections off of that. So I've worked pretty closely with our English teacher, another business education teacher, and a science teacher. That's our core CAPS team that's doing some of the instruction and coordinating this year. And those durable skills are at the core of everything. So we've identified collaboration and professional skills as two of the key core CAPS programs skills to focus on. And then each of our different strands have a few different that are a bit more content focused. And then going back to more teacher and student friendly language, we tie that into some priority standards, which we then tie into assessments where students are linking in evidence as well as getting mentor or partner feedback. So we've been collaborating and connecting with our partners on this as well. So, we're learning as we go. As I mentioned before, it's messy, but we've seen some great examples of other schools that we've modeled off. And we're thrilled with how things have started.
Oh, that's great. So we're hearing a little bit about CAPS. Nate, can you give us a little more information? Tell us a little bit about CAPS. What is it?
Sure. CAPS stands for the Center for Advanced Professional Studies. So, the network was launched, I guess, the very first CAPS program that started in Overland Park, Kansas, Blue Valley Schools District, launched about 15 years ago. But a couple of years prior to that, the school district was in Blue Valley, Johnson County, Kansas. Those kids go to college. That's the expectation. Post-secondary ed, that's what's happening. They were getting some data back that students were, I think, struggling on what the path after that higher ed was. And the school board then challenged the superintendent to come up with some sort of program that would connect their education back in with local industry. And this is where CAPS was formulated. And, it takes students outside the classroom. It puts them in professional environments, whether it could actually be done in a comprehensive high school. It can be done in business. It can be done in a CT type building or a separate building. It can be done in a garage, Scott, if you want to do it right. But it's engaging business in that learning, and it's giving it a purpose to what's actually happening. And it's not an apprenticeship model. It's not a pre-apprenticeship model. It's not necessarily an internship. Some of our affiliates do internships, but if you ask a high school kid, especially a senior today, that dreaded question, what are you doing next year? They want to hide under the table and run away. Bottom line, we are giving students the opportunity going through this experience. One of our core values is self-exploration, self-discovery, that they get to learn more about themselves and what's out there, and especially what's happening in their communities. It's not about necessarily earning the badge or certificate. That can come from it, but you're developing professional values that Shane and Dave have talked about, these durable skills that these employers are seeking. In my career in economic development, companies would say, I can't find workers, but I can find people. And the difference was that durable skill wheel that we're talking about. And we wanted to make sure, I know in our Iowa programs, that was a focus, and that's also been a part of the focus of the national network. But it's a different model. It's unique. It's a change in education. I've been wanting to jump in a few times because I listened to Dave and Shane talk, and I'm like, they heard that when they were in Cedar Falls, and some of the coaching they've come along, and I got to boost up Middleton for what they've been able to do. I think Dave and Shane, you guys don't know this, but I post you guys up as the best model that launched, because you came in with an idea, an open mind. You had institutional support from the top, not just building principal, but the district, and there was buy-in. And Shane ended up in that seat, I think, because he had the right mindset to do this, and he saw where things would go. And you guys were like, you started a year earlier than you planned just to kind of to try it. And one of that core values is responsiveness. And Shane, you probably learned some things along the way going, well, we won't do it that again. And we'll do it this way again. And then you're like, okay, let's launch 3 more. But each one of our affiliates is different. It's the core values, Scott, that come down to it. I mentioned 2 of them with the durable skills and responsiveness and the self-exploration. I guess that was 3 of them, but mindset, and then we call it profession-based learning, I guess, ultimately. So, you've heard work-based learning and experiential learning and dash-based learning, fill in the blank. But profession-based learning, it's industry is involved in it. It's not simulations, it's authentic. So that's what really makes our CAPS program stand out across the country. And, we're up to, I think we're up to 119 affiliates now in 25 states. And it just keeps climbing because people see this. It's something different. And Dave mentioned it earlier. The net sum they were getting on some of those apprenticeship experiences and some of those things, you can actually see some advantage here for what you got to put into it. But the power of our network really comes down to the people, and it's the people that are on here, especially the 2 up in Middleton that have leaned on programs across our network. But I know there's now new ones in our network that are going to lean on them.
Yeah, I remember the story that you told me, Nate, about Middleton-Cross Plains coming down with 2 full vans.
Yeah, it was like the president was in town. It was all these black Suburbans,
Yeah, that's how they roll. That's a good thing.
But, they come down, they come to Cedar Falls to kind of see what is this. And, we can talk about it all day. And I know Dave and Shane can see this, until you see it. Until you see it happen and you actually talk to the students, that's when it starts having an impact. And I know Dave and Shane, we haven't really talked about that, and I'm not hijacking your podcast, Scott, or your webcast.
No, that's all right.
But I guess they can reflect on, you can hear all about it and watch videos on it, but till you're actually there, that's the impact.
Yeah, I agree. I agree a lot. And I agree with what you said about Dave and Shane. You got to have the right people, right? Having the right mindset in that work. So, Dave, one of the things that we look at, there is a need for shift to a certain degree. Talk a little bit about how CAPS can help a district move towards that more defined career community readiness type of a system where you are shifting mindsets.
And I think, that's the part that is difficult for our career and technical educators to sometimes get their heads around. I will say it hasn't been necessarily an easy, conversation. We're still challenged today to say, how is this, supplementing what we're doing for career and technical education? This is not eliminating our career and technical education programs. This is not, taking something away. This is, again, adding, additional opportunity and additional layers into the experiences that we can provide. It will, Scott, can I share on the screen here?
I'm not sure if you can. Sorry. Give me 1 second, but I'll see if I can make it work.
I'll put in a request there. But while I talk around that and see if we get that happening here, one of the parts that I want to say is, I know your listeners are probably want to hear, like, where's the curriculum? What do I need to buy into? What am I going to teach? To me, that's one of the things that we are still, stuck in the trenches a little bit in career and technical education. We have an amazing set of opportunities. We have dual credit programs. We offer abundance of those through UW Oshkosh, Madison College. We actually are a leading partner this year with UW Stout and new opportunities with family consumer science around hospitality and some fashion and apparel connections. We are connected to industry certifications. We have a very robust set of offerings in multiple different program areas. It doesn't take away, in my opinion, from those efforts. Those are still valuable, components of high quality CTE programs. We have project-based learning. We have some simulated worksite settings in our current technical education programs. But to me, that curriculum conversation is really what drives this CAPS conversation, because it is about being responsive. It is about looking at those authentic real world projects and saying, we're not going to necessarily get stuck in saying we don't have time for this because we have to teach to the certifications or we have to teach to the dual credit expectations with the university and post-secondary partners. These are responsive opportunities where this is our time. We're going to stay focused on our community partners, on our industries and our business partners to say, this is our priority to work directly with them. That conversation is going to be driven in a way that our teachers, it's a little scary for them, I'll be honest, because again, they're going to have to look at each of those relationships with those business partners and say, how do I help facilitate that learning for a student without necessarily being the leader at all times in that process? I know it kind of comes down to emphasizing some of the project management skills for our teachers and for our students. Those project management skills really get at the core, I think, of where we're at with some of that career readiness. So I'm going to see if I can share on my screen here.
Yeah, go ahead. I think I gave you rights access.
Because to me, this is kind of that little map of what it looks like as far as Middleton High School. And this isn't necessarily perfect, but this is our best efforts at this time. Really kind of taking the emphasis around academic and career planning, identifying what we're doing through our advisory program, through other experiences that we offer in our school. What are we providing for our career and technical education programs? Again, traditionally, we had a career internship and youth apprenticeship program. But again, making sure we can emphasize where does those professional study experiences fit in to that spectrum and continuation of learning. So whether this is something that your folks can do a screenshot of later on, again, it's a nice tool, I think, to kind of, be a thought provoking process to say, where does this fit in to your school, your journey in regards to career and technical education, but also that career readiness piece with academic and career planning. We know that our students are asking for more of this. We hear it through our advisory feedback that we get, that students are looking for more networking and more professional opportunities. We actually had a group of students that wanted to create their own career internship student organization because they were looking for ways that they can help provide these types of experiences for each other. So we're going to help lift that up for all students.
Yeah, that's some great stuff. I knew you guys were doing some wonderful things for students. And I definitely want to dive in more, Dave. So we're going to spend some time over the next month here together. Watch me knocking on your door soon. But hey, Shane, tell us a little bit about, because you work directly with those students day to day, how CAPS, what we just saw the journey map there, how are your students responding to this?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's been really positive. I think as a teacher, as a CTE teacher, it's been a pretty natural shift. Again, it was a lot about mindset getting there. And I think that's part of the work with students too. It's like getting their mindset right for stepping into a workplace, to work on their professional skills, to get some real feedback that hopefully allows them to grow. But our students have enjoyed it. I think that first month we've gone heavy into like our boot camp phase where we've done some networking opportunities, a few visits out in the community. We brought in some industry partners and panelists to introduce themselves, but the students have been doing some self-discovery and career exploration, as Nate mentioned. They have gone under the Indigo assessment to look at some of their strengths and their weaknesses, but they're really enjoying it so far. I know last year I was able to work with our pilot program, and we took the CAPS survey. And one thing that really stood out to me was there was a question about their overall, their confidence and their overall ability to succeed in life. And prior to their CAPS experience, I would say the answers were somewhat neutral. And there are certainly some students were confident, but there were some students that maybe weren't as sure. However, afterwards, we saw on a 5-point scale, the majority of our class was at least a 3, 4, or 5. Actually, all of our students were a 3, 4, or 5, with the majority being a 4 or a 5. So to me, just instilling that confidence, having experiences that they can build off, a network that they can grow. Those are things that we try to do in our regular classes. I will say this CAPS experience has, as I mentioned, shifted some of my regular practice as well. So, in some of our other natural marketing courses, we try to do some of these projects. It's a little bit harder. There's a little bit more curriculum to get through, and naturally there's more challenges, but when that's the core of your program and the core of your class, it makes it a bit more attainable. But overall, students are really enjoying it, and the feedback has been great. We've doubled our program from last year to this year, and we're optimistic and think that it's going to grow again for next school year. So, yeah, so far so good.
Yeah, it seems like a real natural fit for some classes. One of the complaints I do get with some of the teachers that we're working with and some of the work I'm doing is, when we start to look at career connected learning just in general classes, where does then our, the curriculum, the standards, where does that fit? And so it can be difficult. And I really love hearing from you, Shane. Yeah, it is. It's hard. We've kind of naturally, shifted already into, what is this? And we're seeing a lot of amazing things happening in our state. We're hearing, we want more work-based learning, more profession-based engagement experiences for our students. So Nate, tell us, what are you seeing out there with the what? What at the deepest level, what do you see, work-based learning or some of these profession-based learning opportunities looking like for schools?
I'll piggyback what Shane said because he was spot on right there. When you look at what's happening with CAPS, and I had one of our principals in our program in Northeast Iowa. We talk about helping students figure out what job or career they're on, and she said, "Well, we need to talk about what kind of life do they want." And that gets into the community, especially now. I think coming out of the pandemic, people are paying more attention to how they get to use their free time and the communities they're in and their family and friends and things like that. It's not just the metric to try and check the box for the school board or the state or whatever. It's challenging. It's there, it's qualitative data, not quantitative data. And the information that they referenced in that beginning of the year survey and the end of the year survey for CAPS, you're giving students opportunities to kind of help figure out what's life after high school going to be like, and beyond being a student. And ultimately, it's hard to put a value on that. So, that's really the push that we're on right now is how are we setting these students up to be successful in whatever they happen to be going on, that it's not necessarily defined in certifications or micro credentials or whatever that organizations or the government or our boards are deciding to. We're teaching really to that student, going back to where students lead, because ultimately we want them to be successful. And I said it before, that's who we are serving, and that's who we need to focus on. It's not what we think they should do. We need to help them figure out their pathway, and how do we help them take ownership of that pathway. And that's different, Scott. That from the industrial age of education. It's not just sit and get. They're standing and giving and doing. That's what CAPS is different of where we're at, especially when you look at the work-based learning. We could probably do a whole nother episode of what does work-based learning mean to you and where you're at, and we're going to get 26 different answers of what that means. But ultimately, I think it's good to get into the work-based learning piece, because it's learning that they weren't doing before. It wasn't necessarily learning that any of us on here that had in our K through 12 experiences. It's something different, and we just got to keep pushing along, and figure out what is the best. And I guess even more so is just keep evolving it, because the world's changing, our economies are changing, our customers changing. Let's keep up with it.
Yeah, I've heard you talk a little bit before, Nate, about you got the 3 Ps, and I'm really interested in the last one, which is projects, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard you talk about how do you bring projects in from your local businesses. Tell us a little bit about what that looks like, how CAPS helps promote that, the concept behind bringing something of real world to those students. And then after you explain it a little bit, I'd love to hear from Shane or Dave on some of the same things that you guys are either doing or looking to do.
Yeah, because when you're looking at the workforce piece, so I'm up in Minneapolis today and this week at the Manufacturers Institute Workforce Summit, and it was interesting hearing people all having this problem of where's workforce at. and they get frustrated of how can they expose what they're doing to education, which, you know, we need to watch. And it gets into the 3Ps. There's a ton of companies out there that need people of all different levels, and there's a whole opportunity brewing in a school building to expose your company and your opportunities to these young people. But it has to be that handshake. It just can't be that handout that, you know, they just are going to come in and take and expect you to open it all up. We're looking for that partnership, and I don't want it to be, I term it predatory when they're coming in, because I'm not sure they want to give back. And in order to build that relationship, that first thing is, how do we get a company, and I say company, but it can be a nonprofit, it can be a government, you know, a government agency or whatever, that sees some opportunity. How do you get their people involved? You know, you might be hosting some sort of, you know, exhibition fair for projects, or you are in need of somebody to sit on a panel to review presentations, or a Shark Tank type event, or you need mock interview people. You know, don't just have the social studies teacher down the hall be the other person that's asking the questions in a mock interview. Get that HR person from that company that's around to come in and make it real, you know, or coming in to talk about resumes. You know, no offense to the business teachers out there, Shane, but you know, I had a principal say, you know what, you're right. My business teacher's been here 25 years. She's teaching resumes, and she hasn't done a resume in 25 years. The world has changed, and how do we stay up and helping them understand that? So, you know, there's that getting people involved. And the next one is that opens the door for them to then come in and talk about their professions and engage, you know, and set the stage for them. But ultimately, guys, we're getting that final one, kind of the PX, as I call it, is that projects and experiences. That's where you really start opening the door to give kids a chance to work on something real. Yeah. And in CAPS, we talk about number 7, 8, and 9. And even more specific is that number 10 on your to-do list, always there, never gets crossed off. It could be around marketing, it could be an organization or research, or even could be a manufactured step stool for a cryogenic freezer. That's a real story from Cedar Falls CAPS, that you give kids a chance to work on redesigning this, working with engineers, have to give a presentation, and it's real. And that results in a kid making an impact for a business owner that says, I want that guy working for me, and I'm willing to pay for his training to make sure he does come work for me. Those stories are abound across our network. But, you know, if you can offer projects and real experiences to students and showcase what your industry is, you know, I've had companies say, I don't care if they come work for me as a manufacturer or, you know, hospital, whatever. They're like, we just need more people to get exposed to what these are. Yeah, would they like to have them? But we have to expose what's out there. And I was telling you offline, Scott, it's like, you know, the manufacturing industry, the baking industry, the food science industry, ready mix concrete. Those are all groups I'm talking to you right now that are so obvious in front of us. But if those didn't exist, how up a river without a paddle would we be? Right. If there's no jobs that are feeding us and helping us with construction and moving things forward. So those are ways to get businesses involved. But as we say, just begins with a conversation. You know, if you're an educator or a business person, how do you have that conversation? It doesn't happen overnight. Some do, but you have to at least start somewhere.
You got to have a guy like Dave. That's what I say. You got to have a guy like Dave to pull that structure together, because as you talk about it, right, 7, 8, 9, and 10, you're asking your business partners in your community, give us project number 10 that you probably will never get to. And then you guys shift it into a design sprint and run with it, right? So Dave, Shane, what are you thinking? What have you done? Give us some examples of, you know, some of that work.
Shane, I'll let you share a little bit more about some of the maybe organizations that you worked with. While you do that, I'm actually going to put up on the screen Wisconsin's Guide to Implementing Career-Based Learning Experiences.
Yes,
to me, I think that's an important part of looking at all of those career experiences that we have. And so as Shane shares a little bit more about some of the experiences that they're providing, I'm hoping that some of your listeners and viewers will be able to kind of tag those things that they see on this career-based chart that I'll put up on in just a moment here.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, it's not done by one person. I mean, I have to give a massive shout out to our administration, Dave, our principal, Peg Shoemaker, our superintendent, Dana Minogue. It's a lot of people driving the movement forward. So, there's many times it comes from a contact. So there's, people Dave has worked with over the years. There's my network of people. Many of us have been involved with our local Chamber of Commerce here in Middleton. Some of it is done naturally through coworkers, spouses, friends, family, former classmates. Middleton and Madison in particular, there's vast amount of resources and opportunities. And I think that's one reason we adapted the CAPS model. You just look at the amount of opportunities here with the capital city. In particular, when you look at like healthcare, business, engineering, IT, construction, you name it, there's a lot happening. So, we've kind of jokingly, some of our core CAPS team have called it like this grassroots campaign of, getting gritty and working with some of the people close to us. Just a short list of some of our partners. Last year, we worked with Fetch Rewards, which is a mobile app that you scan a receipt and you can get points. At one point in time, they were #1 app on the App Store, and they were founded by 2 UW students here in Madison. We worked with Thermo Fisher Scientific, kind of looking into pharmaceuticals. We focused a lot on process improvement with them. Last year, we also worked with a local coffee shop, Barrique's Coffee, helping market their 25th anniversary coffee brew. We had quite a few guest speakers from a wide variety of industries, including UW-Madison. This year, expanding into UW Credit Union, who we have a great relationship with. They have a branch here in our school. They have quite a few youth apprenticeship students. We're kicking off a marketing project with a local marketing company. We're doing an audit of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Dane County, so collaborating with a nonprofit to provide a need there. But honestly, it's just been a really fun process to connect with our community, and it hasn't been done by one person or one individual. It's certainly a team effort with Dave, myself, our administration, our other teachers as well. And we also tab students with some of it too. Like, hey, we're always looking for opportunities. If you want to get involved, there's passion projects that students can dive into. They can always go do a visit, an informal interview, a great way for them to explore and see. So the list is certainly growing, but I'm grateful to be in the Madison Middleton community where there's so many opportunities.
If I could jump in there, Scott,
Go ahead.
And this is going to compliment what Dave said, but it's got to be somebody's job. And I remember Peg having that question to me a year ago when I was up visiting their program. It's like, you need that coordinator, you need that director. And it does lead back up to Dave, but Shane took on that role. For this to be successful, it's got to be somebody's job. And you've got to be able to catalyze your instructors and get them trained to where they need to be at. And also, this doesn't work without those partners. And it's Shane's exactly right. It's like teachers will say, I don't know where to get business partners. And I'm like, you have students in front of you that probably have parents that probably have jobs. Some even own companies, or even teachers next to you or your neighbor, things like that. But again, Middleton's doing it right, with the leadership, and then you've got that support up to Dave and Peg and on. So sorry, I wanted to jump in and praise Middleton some more. So
I appreciate it. I think to me, the big part is we want the labor market information to drive the future of our CAPS program.
Yes.
It has to be essential when we're looking at additional strands. It has been very strategic. We've done a lot of visits to CAPS programs across the Midwest and beyond, honestly, out to Utah. Shane was out with a group last year as well. We've done our homework, but now it's about, what does it mean to us locally here? We do know that the biotech region, Dane County area, has been named a biotech hub by the federal government. There's major investments that are happening, and we're doing our efforts to make sure we can provide new opportunities for our students. But we know our partners are working on it as well. For example, UW Health and SSM are hiring a lot of our students towards a work-based learning program. Very appreciative of that. But at the same time, having a partner like Thermo Fisher stepping forward and saying, hey, this is important to us. We can't necessarily bring a student in through a youth apprenticeship program. We're too regulated of an industry. It doesn't fit the right niche for us. What can we do? Hey, we got a great opportunity here. Help be a champion for us to provide some of these experience-based learning opportunities. and it doesn't always have to necessarily be, again, that career related project. Some of it's job shadowing, the career mentor, informational meetings, interviews. It gives us a chance to, sometimes drive the students in a way. So, for example, Thermo Fisher or Shane, they work through kind of that problem solving process, an industry, set of sequences that they go through when they're challenged. How do they address that problem? And to me, that's universal. That gets back to the durable skills, and to me, that's transferable for our students, beyond whatever industry they go into in the future. That's a core set of project management skills that they're going to be able to keep with them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very well said. And quite honestly, we could spend probably 45 minutes on talking about durable skills, right? And the opportunity that exists and what we need to provide for our students within our educational system to grow those. But we obviously don't have time. But one of the things I'm hearing here, right? I mean, think about this, Nate. There's been a couple of districts that you've connected me with that have been doing, the CAPS program, CAPS network for numerous years, right? And here's Middleton-Cross Plains in it in year 2. And for those of you that are live and those of you that are, going to hear this podcast down the road, what Shane just talked about after year 2 of true, real experience for our students to be able to get engaged in. It's just amazing to be able to hear that. It kind of gives me goosebumps because that's what we need to be doing in our school systems as we talk about what does systems change really need to look like. And so I applaud you guys for, where you're headed. Real quick, we got just a couple minutes here left. Real quick, I'd love to hear from Dave, Shane, both perspectives. How if you were to offer a suggestion to a school district that's saying we'd like to shift to this, what would be your suggestion? The how to get it done?
Yeah, I think a couple things. I do think the pilot program was super helpful. It was a way to kind of build it as we go, start building the partners, building the relationships, building the curriculum, and also build awareness within our school district. That was super helpful. And then I just kind of pieced it into some of my regular classes as well. So like, in some of my regular business ed courses, let's do a client project, right? So this is a great way to test it out and makes me better at it. I get more comfortable with it. It's a great experience for our students. And then you can, again, build those relationships with some of your industry partners. And then from there, expand it into CAPS and see where it goes. And Dave touched on it earlier, and I certainly agree. I think a partner project is always like a great goal, but sometimes that's not always attainable for everybody. So I think giving like a menu of options to some of your partners, whether it's just a site visit or bringing in a guest speaker, maybe someday a host site, you never know. But I think working together, working towards something, but that menu of options was helpful for me getting started. And then one more piece of advice was like that first year with our pilot course, there were so many great partners. It was almost like we overbooked the schedule a little bit, trying to leave enough room in there. It's like, how deep do you want to go with your project? So, you could do 5 to 10 projects, but how deep will they go? So that balance of, how much time do you have? How many partners do you have? And how deep would you like to get with your project is something to think about.
I'll try to be brief, but I think to me, a big part is, you got to just open up the door to the community. And to me, it's about our students knowing the opportunities that are right here in our own backyard. It's amazing that a lot of our students, go past these businesses every single day. They drive by. Some of them are tucked away in industrial parks. They don't necessarily see them.
Right.
We have organizations that this is their future. And, why are they heading to college? Hopefully it's to come back and work in our community. But if they don't know what opportunities are right here and available in our community, again, we're missing the boat. There's a flaw in the system. And so to me, open the door to your community partners, go out and do visits to the business and industry partners. We've had an amazing turnout. And I think, Shane, that's probably the biggest challenge that he has right now is we have more people stepping forward from our community saying, hey, we're interested. We'd love to do this. And Shane's like, can't do it this year, but maybe next year. We've probably already got people lined up for the next, 3-4 years, honestly, as far as where this is going. We have done the work to connect with our Chamber of Commerce, both in Cross Plains and Middleton. It is about, our students building relationships. And to me, those are key parts of, we want to make sure our students aren't just successful. We wave to them when they go across the stage, but we know that some of that anxiety is gone, that they kind of have that plan in place, that they know what that future is. And it's not that they have to have it all figured out. It's all about pivoting. And then to me, that's the biggest part of our students through the CAPS network, have learned how to pivot. They've learned how to problem solve. They have built this robust network amongst their classmates, but also amongst the community. And that's something that they can lean upon as they continue to go forward way beyond high school.
Super cool. Nate, anything quick to add?
Yeah, it just complement what Dave said. He goes, businesses are used to having schools come in with their hand out. The next fundraiser, supporting something right after prom or whatever. But when an instructor or a teacher or even the student walks in and says, "What can we do for your business?" It kind of throws them a little bit, because that's not what they're necessarily ready for. But once they understand you're authentic and what you're trying to do, and you're not tricking them, and you can actually have an impact, and it's like once somebody tries it, they want more, because they see what these students can really do when you give them the chance to work on real projects and real situations that can have a real impact for not only that business, but also for that community and especially for that student.
Right. Totally agree. Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time. I want to talk just real quick, because I do want to highlight the fact we dove into the webcast series, started in August. It's going to take us to February. We've had a lot of great guests. Today was outstanding. Just some great information. I do want to highlight that the three individuals that are on this webcast will be joining us this coming April in our unconference, April 29th, 30th, and May 1st. And really what we want to do in that day 2 is build a strong connection between how do you build those relationships with your business partners. On day 3, we're actually going to allow our those districts that are involved in the conference to bring their business partners. So I'm super excited to have the 3 of you guys involved in that. I think that's where people can come, go into depth, really expand on this topic area and learn from the best, really, in our state. So I think that's really great. You guys are involved. One final last question, if you don't mind. I like to end with our tag is teach like it's 2045. What do you see education being in 2045?
I'll start out, and I think the challenge for us is getting our students outside the box. We have a lot of reasons why we can't do it. Find the reasons why you can, and find the reasons why you need to. To me, we can't take no for an answer in regards to saying we have whatever problems or barriers. I mentioned that before. It's all about removing the barriers for our students and making that really a seamless experience. It's learning doesn't happen just in the 4 walls of the classroom. Learning happens beyond the classroom, and making sure your classroom reflects the community around you.
Shane?
Yeah, I agree with Dave. I think expanding on skills, profession-based learning, project-based learning. I think students leading a lot of the charge too, students being authentic in their learning, taking charge, and leading sessions, right? I would love to see workshops where students are leading, students are providing examples, students are running some of their school-based businesses and connecting with their community partners. So really authentic to the students, but expanding on a lot of the concepts we talked about today.
I'm going to jump in with my non-educator guess as I step in. You said 2045, and I'm sitting here thinking, okay, what was it like in 2004, right? So we're fast forwarding 20 years. And, unfortunately, there is a teacher shortage out there, and that's going to impact what the next 20 years is going to be. And I think we do need to lean on our community partners and our industry partners to be a part of what that means to educate our future emerging workforce, whether they're 3 years old or 13 or going to be 18 or 23. I think that's where it needs to be, and that's where I hope it is. And we're doing it authentically to have an impact for our economies and our future communities.
We've adopted a hashtag, do something different. It's not only a hashtag, I think, for our students when they're looking at what their high school experience is, but it's also a hashtag for our teachers as they're looking for ways to kind of become re-energized and reinvigorated by the opportunities to change as far as their experiences from being the traditional classroom teacher.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I appreciate you guys joining us today. How, if somebody wants to reach out to you, how can they get in touch with you if you guys don't mind sharing?
I can jump in. yourcapsnetwork.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter. Reach out there.
And I will say, Middleton High School, if you're interested in visiting a CAPS program, I know Shane would be more than appreciative to have you come stop by, see what our students are doing. I also know that there's a nice network from, like I said, Bob Hall over at Elmbrook. Monroe has also come on board with a CAPS network, and we have a number of other schools in the region that are working towards it as well. I hope to see you all at the CAPS Huddle. To me, that's the number one place to be as far as the groups that are working on the CAPS network. So that happens typically at the end of June down the Kansas City area. So again, I hope to see you there.
Yeah, same thing. We're always welcoming guests if anybody wants to stop by. We're also always trying to go out and see things as well. So if other schools or other individuals are doing neat things, we'd love to see. Try to bring some students along with. But yeah, on our behalf of our CAPS program, we'd love to have visitors anytime.
All right, fellas, I certainly appreciate it. Thanks, guys. And as we depart, remember, the future is clear. Take care.